Today we're back looking at some creepy unsolved TikTok cases.
This is the unsolved murder of Lavena Johnson. Lavena became a private first class of the United States Army and was stationed in Balad, Iraq. She would frequently call her parents to update them on her experience. On July 17th, Lavena called her parents, telling them that she would be home early for Christmas, and she seemed very excited. Only a couple days later, her family received a call from soldiers saying that Lavena committed suicide. However, there was no indication that she was suicidal. At 1:20 a.m., her body was found in a pool of blood next to an M16 rifle that seemed a little bit too far away from her. An autopsy was done and they ruled it a suicide. However, the parents were not buying it. The gunshot wound came from the left side. However, she was right-handed. Her nose was broken and her lips were very cut. Also, her gloves were glued to her hands. That was not normal protocol. The family hired a private investigator who found some more evidence. She had a black eye, loose teeth, and corrosive liquid poured onto her genitals. Her family is still seeking justice.
Well, of course they are. That is shocking. That doesn't sound like someone taking their life. That sounds like someone's taken their life. Kinda sounds like the Vanessa Gullin story, to be honest. Ripped both of them. Okay, so if you don't know, Vanessa was another soldier, and I think something similar happened to her, but in the end it was found out that she was murdered. Whenever they were telling us the details, it really did sound like it was done intentionally by someone else. She was right-handed, but the bullet came in from her left side. And it's also the fact that she had loads of broken bones. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't sound like someone who's gonna take their life. It sounds like someone who's trying to fight for their life. The person who did the autopsy was probably in it. This is a whole cover-up. I mean, sometimes with armies, they will cover up stuff like that. If people are told that that soldier took their life, it doesn't sound as bad as, you know, a soldier took their life. It's just so weird. Like, yeah, it does sound like a cover-up. Something about it does seem fishy. And it's also the fact that they hired a private investigator and they found out she had broken teeth, a broken nose, her gloves were glued to her hand. Like, that isn't normal. That's not what goes on in the army. Something about that is definitely very, very fishy. I don't like it. It sounds very skew-whiff to me. Like, something just ain't adding up.
These strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Arkansas. On August 23rd, 1987, Kevin Ives and Don Henry both went hunting together in a wooded area.
Why do all these stories happen in like the 1980s? And also, if we look at footage from 1980s, it looks so eerie. Like, I don't know why. Whenever I look at them footage, they look cool and aesthetic. Whenever you find out something happened to that person, it makes it a bit more eerie.
They were near some train tracks, which was also very close to Don's house in Bryant, Arkansas. A train was making its usual night run to Little Rock when the engineer noticed something very strange. There were two boys lying on the train tracks.
Ooh.
But despite all of the honking, they wouldn't get up or even move a muscle, and so he tried to emergency brake, but it didn't work and he ended up hitting them and killing them. A medical examiner determined that they were really high and they had smoked about 20 joints. But when both of these boys' families were told that, they didn't believe it. When they were killed, they were covered in light green tarp with Don's rifle next to them on the ground. Don's family said that he would have never left his rifle on the ground to get scratched, and that no matter how high they were, they would have woken up to all of the honking and the noise. Kevin's family hired a private investigator, and every time he would try to talk to the cops, they'd be so unwilling and resistant to talk to him. A different autopsy was conducted, and it turns out they only smoked 1 to 3 joints, and they were dead before they were even hit.
I'm so sorry, what? You just threw that detail in at the very end. Yeah, again, what is up with the police and like the army? Like, they're covering up all these situations. So basically what happened is that these guys went out to the forest and ended up in the train tracks high, and then got hit by the train. By the sounds of it, that's what the police want you to believe. But the private investigator has something else to say. Theory is they witnessed a drug drop from an airplane. The police were involved, so they were killed so that there would be no witnesses. I mean, honestly, you don't know. It could be that. Could be aliens as well. Someone did say Arizona with the UFO thingy from 1997. Maybe it was aliens, because wasn't he like covering like a green substance or something like that? And yet again, smoking 20 joints. Nah, I'm so sorry. It's like physically impossible between two people. Nah, nobody brings 20 joints anywhere unless it's a week-long race. Exactly. It's like, how are they literally gonna sit there and do 20? I don't know. Something about that seems a bit eerie. It's also the fact that like a private investigator basically said that they were gone before the train hit them. I don't know. This is weird. And yet again, it happened like 1987 or something like that. That was like how many years ago? Nearly 40 years. And what's even more scary is that somebody out there is aware of what happened to them, but they haven't came forward.
It just doesn't make sense. This case is strange. Joshua Maddox went missing in 2008, and he wasn't found until 2015. When an unused cabin a quarter mile away from his home was being demolished, his body was found inside the chimney with his knees above his head, and the police ruled it an accidental death, and they said he climbed in from the top and got stuck. But that doesn't explain how he got in the chimney, because there was a metal grate on top of it blocking the entrance, and he couldn't have gone in through the fireplace because there was a heavy breakfast bar that had been ripped out of the wall and pushed in front of it. or why he was only wearing a shirt. All his other clothes were folded up inside the cabin. So he would have had to have been inside the cabin, taken off his clothes, gone outside, climbed up on the roof, and then tried to enter the cabin again through the chimney.
This sounds exactly like the Harley Dilly case. These cases almost sound connected. I mean, could it be a serial killer? If he was found upside down in the chimney, what would he go into the chimney for? Was there maybe like an animal was he put in there? I don't know, that sounds a bit weird. Please, this sounds like the case of Harley Dilly. It's a case that happened in Ohio, same thing, he ended up in a chimney. Okay, so somebody else has ended up in a chimney. What are they doing? Is this possibly like a serial killer? I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? And yet again, it's the fact that he was only wearing a t-shirt and his clothes were folded inside. And wasn't that cabin like abandoned? Why didn't they search that whenever they were searching for him? Okay, but there was a similar death of a young boy in Port Clinton, Ohio last year, and it never made sense either. Now my only thought is serial killer. I mean, it possibly could be a serial killer. We obviously know about that Joshua kid, but we've heard about the Harley Dilly kid. That's two boys who have been found upside down in chimneys. Chimneys are hard to get into, don't get me wrong, I tried to crawl in them whenever I was younger. In the UK, the way our chimneys are, you literally can't get in them, it's physically impossible. The only way to really get in is like from the bottom, like inside the house, not from the top. It all sounds very weird, doesn't it? Somebody's found upside down in the chimney and nobody knows what happened to them.
This is the disappearance of Antoinette Quedito, and the phone call at the end is real. In the middle of the night on April 6, 1986, there was a knock at the door at the Quedito's house in Gallup, New Mexico. 9-year-old Antoinette and one of her sisters heard it and went to the door. A man's voice, claiming to be their Uncle Joe, said, "Hurry, we're cold out here, open the door." But when Antoinette did, 2 men abducted her. Police ruled out her real Uncle Joe, and though they searched, she was never seen again. But a year later, they received this phone call that was too short to trace, but that her mom confirmed was her voice.
Whereabouts in Albuquerque? Hello?
Ew.
Antoinette, where are you? Antoinette?
Okay, so the mother confirmed that that was the daughter's voice at the end. Oh god, by the sounds of it, she's been raised by another family. Oh, I don't like that. That's very, very eerie. I hate listening to creepy calls like that. However, with that call, there is one positive bit to it. At least you know that she's still here. If that was a year after, you know, at least you know that she's out there somewhere. It's kind of freaky, isn't it, how like a child can get abducted very, very young and basically brainwashed into believing that they're like another child. And yet again, what's even more freaky is the fact that 2 men abducted her, but they've never been arrested. Have they done it to like more kids? So both her parents are dead and no one's looking for her now, even though she asked for help at a restaurant. Why isn't the police looking into it? Did she ask for help at a restaurant? I don't remember them saying that. That's just weird. And yet again, both her parents are gone. Oh, that's awful. I always feel so bad for the parents because it's like they go to their grave without knowing what happened to their child. That would be awful. I imagine her mum, after hearing her daughter's voice, I got goosebumps and she's not my daughter, I would go crazy. Exactly, like it probably would fill you with loads of hope that she's, thank God, you know, still alive. But it would still break your heart that like she's still out there somewhere probably scared and you don't know what happened. Other people in comments are saying the parents are no longer here. It's like they had to go to their grave without knowing what happened to their daughter. I really hope their daughter was okay and maybe in the end, you know, she was abducted and raised as another child. But that's still just so heartbreaking.
This woman received mysterious calls for months before something terrible happened. In 1980, Dorothy Jane Scott began receiving threatening calls from an unidentified man.
I'm so sorry, look at that photo, that is freaky. You know how I mentioned earlier in the video, like you think of like 1980s and you see photos and it seems all nice and lovey-dovey. And then whenever you see photos of that and you know something bad happened to that person, it's freaky. Like it makes it worse.
It got so bad she started taking karate classes and contemplated buying a gun. But then on May 28, 1980, co-workers witnessed her car recklessly speeding out of a parking lot. The next day, her car was found burning in an alleyway with no one inside. Then a week after her disappearance, her parents began receiving mysterious phone calls from a man that were too short to be traced. They got a phone call almost every Wednesday afternoon. This went on for 4 years, until Dorothy's skeletal remains were found buried along with the bones of a dog. After her remains were recovered, her parents received one last phone call from the man who said, "Is Dorothy home?"
Oh, what a sick freak. Quite clearly he's taunting them. That genuinely sounds like something out of a Criminal Minds, and yet again, a man done that. Why would you do that? Why are people so evil to actually go out of their way to do that and torture people and their parents? Nah, I'm so sorry. This is actually why I'm so scared to leave my house, because I'm scared something like that'll happen to me. Who hiding in the comments even though it's daytime? I mean, I'm hiding in the comments. If you scroll up a bit, look at that photo. It's terrifying. Should have bought that gun. I mean, a gun might not even stop you from getting abducted. And yet again, it's the fact that the parents got called every Wednesday for 4 years. That man was quite clearly taunting them and then whenever her body was found, he was like, oh, is Dorothy home? One man has done that, and yet again, it's the fact that was so long ago. Like, we never really found out who done it or why. Let's just say the man was like 50 whenever he done it. He would have been 90 now. 90. There's a high possibility he's dead. And yet again, it's the fact like we don't know what actually happened. We know that obviously she disappeared and her body was found, but we don't know if she was alive for like them 4 years. Ugh.
Most people know about the strange happenings in the Bermuda Triangle, but what about the Bennington Triangle? It's in southern Vermont, and it's known as a place where people disappear. It began in 1945 when a 74-year-old hunting guide vanished without a trace, and then almost a year later, on December 1st, 1946, 18-year-old Paula Weldon went for a hike and never came back. Then 3 years to the day of Weldon's disappearance, 68-year-old James E. Tedford was seen by multiple witnesses boarding the bus at the last stop before Bennington, but when the bus arrived, he was gone, but his luggage was still there. In October 1950, 8-year-old Paul Jepson went missing, and then just 2 weeks later, 53-year-old Frida Langer, an experienced hiker, went missing in the mountains. And despite extensive searches for all these people, the only body ever found was Langer, months later, in a place that had already been extensively searched.
From what I'm understanding from that video, there's quite clearly a serial killer or a group, organization in that area that's taking people and like disappearing them. A few people went missing in the mountains. That's actually why I'm kind of scared of going in the mountains. For some reason, I used to believe like there's demons and beasts in the mountain, or like people who lived up there that like kidnap people. You know, basically alien people. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's my imagination, but think of it. If you go hiking up in the mountains and you disappear, you've either gotten lost, you've either gotten eaten by an animal, or someone's got you. I live in Vermont. People are found dead in Bennington. The scariest place is Central VT Marshfield Plainfield cults near Owl's Head. Okay, so that person said the word cults. I don't know if that's an area, but thinking about it now, there possibly could be a cult in that area. There's a big triangle where people are going missing in. They've been going missing for years and years and years. To me, it sounds like something's going on there. Is it a group? Is it like a cult? Is it just a single serial killer? I don't know, it's weird. But it's just the fact that like some of them people went missing like the same date but years ahead. It's just weird. Well, anyways, guys, that's some creepy unsolved TikTok cases. If you want to see me look at more creepy TikToks, then I definitely will. Press big red subscribe and see you all tomorrow for another video.